All right. Hello, and thank you for joining us for our second edition of the Let's Talk series featuring experts we trust to share, educate, and discuss all things advanced care planning. My name is Josh Nelson. I am the AmeriCorps Outreach Coordinator for the Fox Valley Advanced Care Planning Partnership. So just a quick review. What is Let's Talk Fox Valley? I'm seeing a lot of familiar names in here. So Let's Talk Fox Valley, which is sponsored by the Fox Valley Advanced Care Planning Partnership, is a community movement to improve end-of-life care and encourage advanced care conversations and planning. So now as we dive in a little bit about our speaker, he is an old friend of the Fox Valley. He has over 10 years of experience in advanced care planning in the state of Wisconsin. And now as a founder and facilitator, he started the Maycroft Advanced Care Planning Services, which helps people of all ages create meaningful documented healthcare directives. On top of that, and where he will be focusing much of his discussion today, he founded and hosts the Celebrity Death Plans podcast, which I highly recommend listening to as well, and he'll get further into that. Without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce John Maycroft. John, the floor is yours.
Wow, thank you so much, Josh. Thank you all for joining. I really appreciate it. This is my first time presenting this, and it means a lot to be talking to the Fox Valley Coalition because you've been old, wonderful, resilient friends. And so I'm really happy to see you all. I see familiar faces, and this is just really terrific. I'm going to jump right in by stopping my video, sharing my screen. Are you sharing something there? Nope, we got it. And I'm going to start with a basic statement, which is that despite all the incredible work that's been done in the world of advanced care planning over now decades since this concept was built up, we really have to admit that we haven't broken through to achieve advanced care planning for everyone. The public is better informed. I think there's broad awareness that advanced care planning is important and something that people ought to do, but they still don't really know what the thing is. They don't know how to go about it. They think it's going to be expensive. They don't always know where to look for help. And so we are still stuck well below 50% and possibly below 20 or 30% in the American population of number of people who have a meaningful documented advanced care plan. And that's frustrating. One point at which I think we've made, we've struggled to break through is that, and I'm as guilty of this as anyone over time, is that we spend a whole lot of time trying to explain and promote and motivate advanced care planning, telling people how to go about it. We talk about advanced care planning a lot, but the actual conversations themselves tend to occur in private. We leave people on their own or just with a facilitator. And there aren't a lot of places where people can go to look and see what does an advanced care planning conversation look like, to demystify it and send them in so that they don't feel like it's always the first time they're having that conversation. Because people are still confused and hesitant about planning, and whatever they don't understand, they're going to fill in the blanks with their worst fears. We do that, right? If you don't understand something and you're scared of it, and there's a gap in knowledge, you're going to say, oh my gosh, that's the part where they do the really horrible thing, isn't it? When, in fact, advanced care planning conversations are really interesting. They're not always pleasant. They're certainly not always fun, but they can be. And they can be interesting to observe, listen to, see. They can be almost titillating in the way a horror film can be, or uncomfortable like The Office or something like that. It's kind of at least to me, it's fascinating watching and listening to advanced care planning. So my mantra more and more has become demonstrate, demonstrate, demonstrate. Instead of talking about advanced care planning, let's just show people what it is, demystify it all the way, let them look at it. And then something happens where as they do that, they see somebody else making their plan, answering questions, and they can agree or disagree off that. They can riff on it. They can say, yeah, that sounds really great, or no, that's not me. And I think that helps them subconsciously make their plan to the point where after that it could be easy. So that's why this is called Advanced Care Planning for Everyone. It remains my goal to make this accessible for everyone. These upstream conversations need to be had by every competent adult above the age of 18. And I think even, 16-year-olds can be talking about this. There's not a limit to the amount of culture change we can have. So one day, 2 or 3 years ago, someone famous died, and I think it was Joan Rivers, but I don't recall exactly. And died without an advanced care plan, and there was family conflict that made the news. And the usual thing happened in the advanced care planning community, which was use this as a hook to educate people and talk about the importance of advanced care planning. My weird thought was, well, why don't we just help the celebrities create their advanced care plans? And the Celebrity Death Plans podcast idea was born that day. Um, that we could just show off these conversations with famous people, that it would be interesting, and we would actually solve that little problem. And I was also motivated because I've always liked radio and audio and sound and thought it would be a fun hobby. So after really years of building up to it painstakingly, I figured out that I should enlist my little sister, Lindsay Bonema, as my co-host, and we got the podcast going. We have 3 published episodes. There are 2 more in the bank. The next one will be released next week, Thursday, and the following 2 weeks after that. Our guests so far have been Tranna Wintour, a comedian in Montreal, Heather Friedley, who's an artist here in St. Paul, and by her art, she makes beautiful landscapes and other art really based in the Midwest. Heather Friedley, friedleyarts.com, check her out. Todd Ruler, who is a local improv and stage actor and also a voice performer. So you've heard her voice in commercials without knowing the face behind it, but that's Todd. And Ryan North, who creates Dinosaur Comics, which is a fantastic online comic. Check that out if you haven't. He also was the writer for the comic books of Squirrel Girl and Adventure Time, and he was hilarious. That one's coming out in 3 weeks. Then I did a test episode with my high school friend Gary, and he was so darn good and was such a great interview that we decided to publish it, include it, even though he's not a celebrity. And that turned out to be really good. So from this point, make sure you've got good volume on your speakers. If you've got good headphones or good speakers, plug them in, treat yourself to good sound. I'm going to play some clips with just minimal setup, and you'll get to hear a little bit of the podcast. Does that all sound good? Good. I see some nodding.
Perfect.
All right. So the first question that I like to ask when our guests come on is, how the heck did we get them to come onto this program? Because it's a very strange invitation. And so these are the responses that we got from our first round of guests. So thank you for doing this.
Oh, totally.
Do you have any idea what you're getting into?
I have no flipping clue.
Okay. Well, why did you agree to this? Just based on what do you know?
Well, you're my friend and you're funny, and you said, hey, will you do this interview with me? And I said, sure. And I kind of know what you do a little bit, but I don't really know what you do all that much. But I did it because I like to talk, honestly. Let's just be honest.
So yeah, what's your best guess about what you're getting into here?
My best guess about what I'm getting into is that we're going to talk a little bit about life, death, and the meaning of life, I guess.
Do you even know what you're doing here?
No, I don't, and I think that's why I said yes. I mean, maybe that's my improv background. I try to say yes to things that I don't really know what's gonna be the outcome with, and yeah, just to see where it leads, see where it goes.
So, what's your best guess?
Well, my guess is that we're gonna talk a little bit about like a plan for me if anything bad happens.
Honestly, when I got your email, I thought it truly is one of the strangest requests I've ever received. And at first, I really didn't understand what I was reading. And I sent the email that you sent me to my podcast co-host, Thomas, one of my best friends. And I'm like, look at the concept of this podcast. Like, do you think I should do it? And he's like, yes, totally, do it.
Wow.
Cool.
I thought it was interesting. I feel like we're always at some level thinking about death, but very often, or very infrequently rather, do I be invited to come onto a podcast to discuss my own death. And I try to make it a policy to say yes to interesting propositions.
I think it's definitely intimidating, and I don't actually know what I would want. So this might be a good exploration of that.
Sure.
I also have a chronic illness, and that's something that like is definitely more in the forefront of my mind. And as a result, I think it feels very real in a scary way to be like, oh, something happened. What do I do about that?
It was just is an interesting topic. So as I'm driving here, I'm thinking how weird the timing of this conversation. Simply for the fact that in the last year in particular, I've really changed my mindset and really refocused my energy. And
Great, I can't wait. Except I could wait forever. We don't have to do it.
People wait forever all the time. You
Yeah.
could just put this off until it's too
We're just
late.
doing it.
Let's just do it. All right, here we go. So there we go. That's how we got our first people to join in. Generally, they had no clue what they were doing, and I think that actually makes for a better episode. If we ever become too popular, it might get a little bit less entertaining, but I'll take that problem. The first question under at least some models of advanced care planning is to ask folks what makes life most meaningful. And I like to frame it in terms of what makes a good day. That's an easier question than what, if you say what makes life most meaningful, it sounds like what's the meaning of life? And that makes people very nervous. So we asked what makes life most meaningful, and here are the responses we got.
I'll tell you, it gets simpler for me all the time too.
Most of the joy in my life is really derived in the small things and really just connection. Like fundamentally, that's really what it all comes down to for me. It's like in my personal relationships, in the relationship that I have with the people that come to my shows, like it's really about connection.
So I love to be around trees and flowers. It's a very common joke amongst my friends that I will cry when I see flowers that I just think are so beautiful. I can't help it. So like I'm a flower nerd, and so I just will, luxuriate in nature.
I gotta tell you, every day is a good day, but it's a varying degrees, right? So my favorite kinds of days are waking up on my own, not to an alarm. It's sunny outside, but not too hot, kind of on the cooler side. The kids are awake, but not totally jumping on me yet. I go downstairs, I have some coffee, I sit on my porch, I enjoy the birds, of course, in the presence of my husband and children. And
The birds first.
The birds first. First the birds. First the coffee, actually. That was the first move. Then the birds, right?
Hang out, nice food, a lot of food in this fantasy, I guess.
Yep.
Just talk to each other, maybe talk about our feelings in a way that everyone feels comfortable with.
So there's this moment of like beauty and growing and care and love and giving before actually being in the studio and creating.
And they really revolve around my kids, which is, I want to be a good listener. I want to be patient for them. I want to be present for them. I want to listen to everything they say. That's so a good day for me is a day where I can accomplish those three things with people in general, right? So trying to be intentional in my conversations, business or otherwise, trying to be more intentional and present in my children's conversations. That's a good day, and I had a good day today.
And then go to bed at a sensible hour. Sounds great.
All right, that was Ryan North at the end. All right, another question we ask in this process, and again, this interview is really pretty by the book, advanced care planning, just with dumb jokes and entertaining side comments. But we ask about beliefs and values that they bring to these decisions and to life in general.
Oh gosh, I mean, I think for me, I try to live my life through my core values, which are connection and honesty.
Interestingly enough, I'm a big Jesus guy.
I feel like my belief system is very it's nature based. It's like it draws a lot from my Anishinaabe heritage and my experiences of being in the woods and wilderness and caring for others and animals and things like that.
So day to day, I don't know how much my spirituality is like a super focused, thought out thing, but it's more in the moments where I feel really scared or uncertain, that I put out a sort of I guess you'd call it a prayer into the universe. You know what I mean? Like there are definitely nights where I will just sort of speak into the universe, like, please take care of me, take care of my family. Please let everything be okay, or please help me achieve this thing that is so difficult right now. Like, I definitely have a sort of ongoing conversation with that energy, but it's
Yeah. Well, I'm not religious, so I don't think about it in that terminology. I do feel again like just having a greater sense of connection between myself and others is important. I guess you could count that as kind of spiritual, I guess.
So I try to bring Jesus into the house, for my kids, and I try to talk about him and the importance, I think, of some of the lessons and teachings there about love, right? And love sort of being the ultimate unifier and the most important thing you can experience in your life.
Right. Next question is helping them choose who they want as their agent. And often I ask first, what are the traits you would look for in a good agent? Because people will leap toward their closest family member if they don't think about the characteristics of a good agent, right? So if you ask first about traits, then they'll sort that out. And then when they go back to who they initially thought, sometimes they'll say, yeah, that's the person. And sometimes they'll say, I'm not so sure. And we'll hear a little bit of that here.
Somebody who would have my corner, who would want to ask more questions, somebody who would really want to get all the information before just making a decision. The first person that immediately comes to mind is my dad.
Yeah, qualities is an interesting way to ask. I think you have to have a shared vision and understanding for what are the sort of, I'll call them break points, maybe like deal breakers,
And my sister is she always rises to the occasion. Whereas like I get overwhelmed by the emotion and the panic and the worst case scenario thinking, and I get sort of overwhelmed. And
do I have to know them, or could I, like, this is a haunted house situation, could I put like Barack Obama as number 3, and he'd then be legally mandated to decide what to do with my
Now,
my current situation?
That is another total softball, because it's something that people do all of the time to
Really?
family members. So
Oh no.
you don't have to tell the person you name as your agent that they are your agent. You don't ever need to
What
tell
a
them
surprise.
You don't have to do anything. And when people create these documents in a lot of different places, including the estate lawyers, they fill out these forms, and when something happens, brother or sister or mom or dad or whomever is called
Blindsided.
You're completely blindsided. And so you absolutely can do that. People do it all the time. It causes misery and confusion and conflict for the people you do it to. But technically, green light.
Well, I'd want it to be my wife. I would want that decision to be hers. And I would think that would be the most sensible, logical place. But we haven't approached this question, and I don't know that I can say that we have shared ideas or beliefs or.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, I feel like there's a lot of people that fill a lot of roles in my life, and I want to say my husband, but I don't think it would be him in that moment. I think I want him there for the comfort, like hold me to your bosom and tell me it's gonna be okay. Like that's why I married him, basically. I keep telling that story where
And you still get a crew, right?
just says
Like
it's okay,
you
it's
have
good.
your agent, but you also have your crew.
Right.
So it sounds like he's in your crew.
He's in my crew.
Not like no one wants to. Maybe some people really covet this. I feel like most people would rather not have to decide the fate of someone they love. But my brother is a pretty chill guy, and I feel like he'd be down with it.
So that's how Ryan chose his brother, because he'd be down with it. All right, then all of that is basically warm up to the question of what are your goals if an accident or illness leaves you unable to communicate? And it could go either way. People struggle with this. A way I've found to ask this question that is often successful is, what is your line above which if there's a possibility you'd be able to blank, you'd want to keep going, and if not, it may be time to let go. And that can be anything from being able to watch your kids grow up, be present, be able to communicate. It can be if I can sit on the couch and drink a beer and watch the Packer game. If there's a fighting chance I'll be able to do that, I'd want to keep going. And if not, it may be time to let go. So here are our guests pondering that question.
Well, the words "I want to live" come to my brain. I want to live, but I don't want to live forever. So I think if there's avenues to try, I'd like to go down those avenues. But if I'm gonna just be breathing but not present for the rest of my life, if that's the end product, then I probably don't want to be there anymore.
Good question. I mean, like I said, my values are connection and honesty, and I want to still. And if I wouldn't really be able to connect, communicate, I would want that connection to be strong for others to be able to support me in that regard. So that's connecting with medical professionals, with each other, with me too. I'd still want to at least, even if I maybe couldn't say anything, I'd still want to be told.
If I was not aware of what was happening, if I was not aware of what was going on around me or outside of me, that's not really living a life. That's just a body that's organs are still working. That's not what I want to be here for.
But there's an issue I have, and the issue I have is with the fact that my brain is something physical and can be altered physically. I really don't like stories of brain injuries or people doing drugs and frying their brain. That stuff just twigs me like nails on chalkboard. So in a situation in which I am alive, but I have suffered a traumatic brain injury, that's different for me than the situation in which I'm alive and my brain's fine, but all the nerves below the neck are cut and I can't move at all. So
the mental is more important to me than the physical.
Right.
The mental and the verbal, is more important to me.
Yeah. So if I think to try to piece it into something that you could tell people.
Yeah.
The connection is indispensable, right? If you can't feel connected to people, you know how much you suffered from that just in the pandemic.
Yeah.
The ability to not just take in meaning, but create meaning and express meaning, whether it's through just conversation or comedy or performance or the things, gifts that you give to the world, which are wonderful gifts. It sounds like you need that.
Yeah, I do. I really do.
I mean, I like my whole body. I think it's a solid 10 out of 10 body all day long. But if I had to pick my favorite organ, it would be the brain.
I think less about what I'll be able to or not be able to do. I think more about what my partner will or will not be able to do. I think there's a point where you're caring for somebody can completely take over your own life and can disrupt your own life and can keep you from living your life.
I guess somebody would call me stubborn, but I would say I'm very headstrong. And I would work for it. I feel like I would work pretty hard.
I guess the core of this is that I don't want to, so Canadian, I don't want to inconvenience others too much. So if it's not too much of a trouble, then you can keep me alive. But if it's a real pain in the neck, then you can let me go.
Sure.
All right. How are you doing so far? Still good? Terrific. Okay. Next up is the question about end of life. So if the treatments, if the fighting, whatever it is, don't work and it's time to let go, what do our guests want at the end of life? And I often ask this in terms of what do you want the room to look like? Because that can help people not just visualize, but think about the space, the appearance, the smells, the sounds, the presence of other people, all of those different factors that are important. So imagining that room is one way to think about it, and you'll hear people describing that in different ways.
I think I would like to not be in a hospital. I would like to be in a place of comfort if possible, like my home, with friends, family. That would be ideal if that could happen.
Mhm. I really don't want to be alone. Even if it's just my sister or like just one friend, like I just need at least one person there.
It's people. It's people I like, people I love. I would prefer. You know what? Let's bring a dog in there. Can we put that? Like, have a dog, bring a puppy. Oh,
Definitely want climate control because I don't want to be too hot and I don't want to be too cold. I just want to be just right, and I don't want to be humid and I don't want it to be dry.
No.
I don't know if this is neither here nor there, but I think a lot about grief. I think a lot about grief and how we as a society, in America in particular, is just terrible at it. We don't know how to do it, and I think it's
We really are.
we suck at it, and I hate that because I think grief is so not linear and complex and can be so devastating, but also can be really eye-opening and beautiful.
you know, I'm thinking of smells now because I'm realizing I can make this bespoke death environment, and I get to have puppies crawling all over me.
Make it smell like Kentucky Fried Chicken. I love it.
Yeah, I do like fried chicken, but I'm worried I like it for a little bit, but I don't want to like die smelling like fried chicken. I don't think. Not flowers, something floral. Oh, citrus. I love one of my top 5 flavors is definitely citrus. So if someone wanted to bring like a lemon potpourri and some puppies and some cool music, I think that'd be pretty good.
My children love the sauce on it.
This is very important to some people. You wouldn't
Yeah,
believe
I believe it.
the people.
But I'm not a really big socks in bed gal. I know, and you're in bed, but yeah, I'm trying to remember like when I was. But socks in the hospital was like pretty great because you get the little grippies. But if you're not moving, I don't know, man. I think if I blink once, it's socks. If I blink twice, it's no socks.
Like, I mean, if I'm like conscious in that moment, you know, like, I mean, maybe I'd want to like be played out to my favorite song.
Which is?
I mean, I think in that moment I would want it to be Somewhere Over the Rainbow from The Wizard of Oz, the movie version.
Yeah.
Because that was my first love.
I also want I'm really not trying to like bring it up or like lighten the mood, but like I would also want there to be some laughter. Like laughter is like so important for me in my life and my career and my, you know, what brings me joy in the world. Like, oh my gosh, I mean, last night I had like a deep belly laugh over something stupid I saw on the internet, and I was like, oh, I guess I haven't had that in a while. It felt so good.
Oh my
like
gosh, right?
I just love that kind of like bone deep laughter. And will that happen if I'm in a place of not able to be present and other
It
people are
might, because
in the
people
room?
are desperate.
I don't know.
for it.
I think that there's a real gift in laughter. It's another kind of release. I always think that when I'm doing comedy, you know, I've gotten letters from people, not directly to me, but like to a cast, to be like, I've been going through one of the hardest times in my life for XYZ reasons. And it was so wonderful to take a step back and just laugh. And because again, it's much like crying, only way more enjoyable. Although a good cry can really feel good too, but like I just feel like it could be the same thing. Do you know what I mean? I want there to be both. I want there to be some light in a time of pain.
Oh, that makes me think of something. I do want dim lights because my eyes are sensitive to lights, especially on the ceiling. And if I were in bed and probably maybe my eyes are open, I don't want bright lights shining in those eyes. So a dimly lit, lemon scented, puppy filled, bopping room sounds great. And right? And I mean, also I want to say that like, if whoever's doing this can't get everything, then that's fine. Like if it's just one of those requirements, I will still die satisfied. I won't be like, oh man, what a cruddy death.
Well, I do not want to suffer.
Okay.
Like, I really don't want to be in pain, feeling anything. I really don't want to suffer.
There'd probably be football on. probably have my kids. I want my family around. I want,
Kids. Yeah. Yeah. You're a hugger, right? I warned you.
Damn it! I just want kids to be happy. Like, I don't want them to be scared. I like can't control that, but like I just enjoy hearing them.
Yeah. A lot of it is. It sounds like it's about setting up healthy grief for the people around you.
Yeah, and like I think that's just something that I know so many people don't have or get, and I don't like that. I would want there to be more of a support system. I always say, like, I always want to lift up and champion my friends and family, the people I care about, and I would want the same for them. In any situation, if I couldn't do it, I'd want somebody else to be able to support them.
Now, how cool is that? Remember that every one of these guests came in cold. They mostly had no idea what they were getting into, or only a minimal idea. And yet, an enormous amount of thought and wisdom came out from this process that I think it's a whole lot more than what you want in an end of life or a medical situation. I think it gets what I love about advanced care planning is really it's about what makes people tick, and you get to learn that about each person. And on top of everything else, I think it's interesting and entertaining. So the last question that I ask almost as a survey of our guests is how do you feel? Because I want to know, and I want listeners to get a sense of, after this whole in-depth conversation, how do they feel? Is it traumatic, fun, whatever? And here's what we got.
How are you feeling?
I feel pretty good. You know, I don't usually talk too much about this stuff. I mean, like you said, I think you prefaced this, like, it wasn't as daunting as I thought it was once we kind of got into it.
Well, that was simpler than I thought, other than the crying.
Now I have this information, and also now I know. Like, I didn't know.
It's just a nice thing to do. And it's fun to do it with both of you because you're both so fun. It feels almost like a Cosmo quiz, honestly.
Well, I think you got a 10 out of 10 on that kind of bullshit.
Yeah, and it's not that hard. Like we've chatted for less than an hour, and it wasn't 45 minutes, and it wasn't like I feel as emotionally stable now as I did beforehand.
Now that I have a plan, like I can at least have that out of my brain space, so
Yeah.
I'll be more at peace.
All right. So here is my call to action, and then I'd love to hear your feedback because it's a new show and what direction you'd like to see us go. But this is the part where you are allowed to pick up your phone, and in fact, I encourage you to do so. Go to your favorite podcast player, whether it's Apple Podcasts or Google Play or Spotify or whatever it is. If you don't listen to podcasts, this is your time to learn how to do it. So find your podcast player, just look up Celebrity Death Plans and give it a listen. Hit the subscribe button if you can. We love subscribers. They help us give this a boost. And then please share it. So pick 3 friends who you think need to hear this or would be entertained by it. And they can be civilians, just friends or family who you think need to have a conversation. But also, since I know many of you are in the world of advanced care planning, palliative care, hospice, social work, send it to your clinical friends too as a potential resource. I think that this can also teach clinicians a little bit about how to have the conversation because they don't get to observe it very often too either. So please subscribe and share some more. Give this new little show a boost if you would. Use it also to demystify the process of advanced care planning with the people you know. Allow it to be pleasant and even fun. I think, again, if you work in the world of advanced care planning, I don't think any of us need to be gatekeepers as much as we've been for what advanced care planning needs to look like. I think we can take a little more populist and popular approach, let the people on the other side guide a little bit more where they want it to be, and they can teach us how to make better conversation. And then I think you'll hopefully be better equipped to initiate your own conversations with friends, family, clients, patients. I hope this will open it up for everyone. The website, the podcast has its own website as well. It's celebritydeathplans.com. This is all a production of Maycroft Advanced Care Planning Services. That's my company, and we offer facilitated advanced care plans in person in the Twin Cities, over Zoom everywhere else, every state and province in the United States and Canada, even Australia and the UK if you really want. I have facilitated one with an Australian, and that was a lot of fun. So if you do have friends or family who don't have access to facilitations or skills or are just feeling stuck, please send them my way. We'd love to help them. Individuals, couples, families, groups, corporate work, whatever it is, we can be there. And with that, I want to thank you all again. Please keep demonstrating the advanced care plans. I hope you've enjoyed this, and we've got plenty of time for Q&A if you'd like it.
All right, thank you, John. And that, as he just said, if anybody has questions or thoughts on what we just went through, feel free. The floor is yours right now. If you either want to do it through chat or if you're comfortable talking over Zoom, either or is welcome.
Sure.
Just, I wanted to thank you because I've done a lot of, helping people develop their advanced care planning, but you brought some things into it that I found entertaining, but were topics I hadn't even really thought about. So thank you
Great.
very much for that.
Good. I really appreciate that.
That's awesome. I'll check the chat one more time.
Any guests for the wish list? Who do you want to hear?
You have any dream guests, John, that you would want for the podcast?
Honestly, Ryan North was one of them. He was one of the
Yeah.
first people I thought of when I thought of this show, probably because he's got a book called Machine of Death. And yeah, I think I had to cut this clip, but the concept behind the book of Machine of Death is that there's a machine that will spit out a little piece of paper that tells you how you will die. But it's got sort of old world irony. So it might say something like old age, and you say, oh, great, I'm going to live to old age. And then you walk out and get hit by a car driven by an octogenarian or something like that. So it toys with you. And this book is a collection of short stories written by other people about all the crazy things that would happen to individuals in society if there were such a thing as a machine of death that would tell you how you die. And so that is in fact the opposite of how life really works. But I knew Ryan would be good for that. Oh, I've got a few others, and now since you've asked, I'm forgetting all of them. But
Of course, right?
of course, I want Beyonce and George Clooney.
Yeah.
They're high up on the
Hey,
list.
shoot for the moon. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I want Kristen Schaal. I think she'd be really terrific. And I think comics are pretty good for this because they're good at thinking on their feet. And, some of them are kind of messes and would run very fast away from this. But the others are really, really good at it. So I have a feeling I'm going to end up with a lot of comics.
Oh,
There's
that's
also a
awesome.
decisive Canadian bent to this. We're 2 out of 5 Canadians so far.
Oh, wow. Oh,
Yeah.
great. That's awesome. Well, I think that will do it for this month's iteration of our Let's Talk series. I want to say thank you again to John for the excellent presentation. If you've missed any part of this at all or would like to see other sessions that we've held in the past that are similar to this, you can go to our YouTube page as these are recorded and they will be uploaded shortly after this. For more information, so for John's website and where you can find Maycroft Advanced Care Planning Services, that is at maycroftacp.com. There it is. And for the Celebrity Death Plans podcast, www.celebritydeathplans.com. And you can find it on Google Play, Apple Podcasts, which is similar with Apple Music as well, and then Spotify as well. And it is free to subscribe to these. I highly recommend it. For more information on other events, monthly classes, future Let's Talk series events, and more, you can go to our website at fbacpp.org and on Facebook at Let's Talk Fox Valley. Also, be sure again to check your email for those surveys, as there will be a survey which helps us with feedback on these events and what we hope to continue for many months down the road. In the comments also of the survey, please feel free to share if you'd like how you're using the Let's Talk series, maybe back home with your families or or in the community as well. We would love to hear it. So once again, thank you so much for attending. Thank you to John Maycroft, again, our excellent speaker this month, for being with us. We look forward to seeing you again next month, September 15th, 5 p.m. with Elise Krista Mishi. She is an artist in resident at the Appleton Public Library who will talk about her work in the context of the death positivity movement. Once again, thank you again. Thank you, John, and hopefully see everyone again next month. Take care and good night.
Thanks, everyone.